Thank you for joining us for another episode of Voices of the Village. We hope today that you are bringing your positive vibes, positive energy, and you have a goal in mind when you are listening to this podcast. We're hoping that by the end of this podcast that you would have a little more faith, that you would have a little bit more courage, and that you would know that you too are making a difference in the village that you are in. So we thank you.
Voices of the village, we rise, we sing. Every heart together, let the love take wing. Voices of the village, where dreams begin.
Today we have Thomas Ballard being the voice of the village, and we are excited to have him. Thomas has been on this journey with me for the last 3 years. I've learned so much. He has mentored me in certain ways, especially when it comes to my mouth. Thomas is a little different than I am. He is a little calmer with his words that come out of his mouth, and I'm a little more aggressive. But I've been able to learn being in the presence of Thomas. So here I am welcoming Thomas Ballard. I want to say thank you for joining us today on the Voices of the Village.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we're going to get right into it. What makes you want to be in a space to give back?
Just the way I was brought up, coming from our community, we had a lot of negative influence, but we had those positive influences too. So, the things that I remember too was it was a guy who lived down the street from me, Mr. Bruce, who used to come up in his Lexus, suit and tie type of guy, clean cut, nice cars, but he was always out playing basketball with us, and just his demeanor brought the joy to the community and our kids, and I always idolized him for, the dope boys had their cars, but so did Mr. Bruce. He came up, but he was just one of those guys who kind of mentored us, but that shirt and tie, and that was a thing that kind of stood out. So I always wanted to kind of mimic how he was an impact on our community.
Beautiful. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and how you came about to want to be in the field of giving back?
So I bounced around a little bit. I did a little bit of, I worked with, individuals with intellectual disabilities. I worked with youth that was on the spectrum with autism and behavior problems. I've worked in the shelters. So I've always been in the human service field, but just always kind of working with kids was my joy, working with the young kids. So I feel that was what started me to really grab a passion of helping. Mm-hmm. So once I did that, it just kind of took on, and now I mentor the kids, but I also help with the adults too in the reentry program.
Absolutely. What is the one piece that you feel we're missing? So you said back in the day you had your own little village, and Mr. Bruce was part of that village. What do you think is the difference between the village when you were coming up and the village that we consider today?
I would say that these communities have changed a lot. When I was growing up, you had your parent, but then the other neighbors was your parents too. So yeah, we did wrong and did dirt, but it wasn't right in the eyes of our neighbors. We had to go off and do it. Now, and I feel kids aren't able to be disciplined by their community. Right. So I feel that's a huge piece, because not only did I have to have respect for my parents, I had to have respect for our neighbors and, Miss Martha, who lived way down the street, I had to have respect all the way home. And now I feel the community is just so torn apart that no one can help discipline our kids. I think that's a big issue that we have.
I would agree with that. I would also add to that everybody is on the defense. So I could go to you back in the day about your child and say, look, I seen, he skipped school on Thursday. Yeah. I'm just letting you know. Today you go to a parent and you say, I seen Johnny. I think he skipped school on Thursday. And they're ready to fight you. They're ready to cuss you out. Mm-hmm. Mind your business. Don't worry about what my kid is doing. And Johnny legitly could have skipped school. Mm-hmm. But the response from the parents, I think, is really different now, which doesn't allow an opportunity for people to even feel safe to go and create that village atmosphere.
Yeah, absolutely. Accountability, I think, we had to, like, my mom didn't second guess somebody else saying it. If they see me doing something, then
Right.
someone's seen it. I have no excuses, you know. So I think that's a difference as well, is like the parents being able to take accountability for, you know, for the children. So my mom didn't go down and have to get a whole bunch of details. If someone said they see me doing something, 9 times out of 10 I did it, but you know, that's just what it was.
So, what do you feel the impact? So, you're in, can you give us a little bit of a description in the area that you're in Maryland so people have a visual?
Yeah, so the Eastern Shore, a lot of people kind of, well, I'm from Salisbury, Maryland, so a lot of people kind of compare it to like Baltimore City, and it's not quite that, but it's just as dangerous because we're so tight. So from the east side to the west side is like a mile. So, you know, you have these two sides that are, you know, beefing with each other, and it's like they're separated by a highway. So, you know, and then, you know, social media, everyone wants to mimic what they see on social media and all that. So, I mean, I think our culture impacts our youth way more than they can even understand. So, you know, like, Salisbury area is cityfied, but it's also super country. So, you know, it's Eastern Shore when it comes
The
to...
bus stops at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things that go on in Salisbury that, you know, don't go on in the city, and vice versa, you know. Right. So, yeah, Salisbury, like, you know, it's countrified a little bit, but it also has, like, it's bits and pieces of the city. And then where we're located, you know, it's 3 hours to, you know, Jersey, 2 hours to Virginia Beach, 2 hours to Baltimore, 2 hours to D.C. So, like, we're really right in the middle of everything. So we just pour all of those cultures onto the Eastern Shore, and that's kind of how it's always been.
So with mentoring on the Eastern Shore, and I think recently we just looked up like the population of Salisbury itself, and I think it was somewhere around like 36,000 or something like that people in the city of Salisbury. How do you think mentorship might look a little bit different down on the Eastern Shore, particularly the Salisbury area, opposed to a Baltimore City?
That's a good question. I mean, I would say it's just as important as Baltimore City or like the major cities. Like, you have to, you know, there's nothing for them kids to do down there. You know, sports is real big on the Eastern Shore, but it's always been a difference when, you know, just because you're a winner on the Eastern Shore don't mean you're going to be a winner when you come 2 hours to Baltimore. So, like, I think the importance of us is getting those youth. You know, you have some youth who are from Eastern Shore who have never crossed the Bay Bridge. You know, so you think an hour and a half away, they've never been to Baltimore. Or if it is, they've been across there as a kid for like a field trip. But as they get into their teenage and adulthood, a lot of people don't even leave the Eastern Shore. So, like, they're stuck in that mindset of this is the Eastern Shore way, and they feel like they're biting off of all these bits and pieces of different cultures from like Philly and Baltimore and stuff, but you haven't even been in that environment. So it's a lot of following, a lot of following for our kids.
So what do you think we can do together as the current village that we stand in to get others to start enhancing mentorship down on the Lower Shore?
Exposure. Like, we got to try to find a way to expose the youth. And I'm going to keep saying young adults, too, because you still have 22, 23-year-olds who are following in those, I mean, up to 30 are following those same footsteps. So I just think that we have to find a way to expose these youth to different opportunities. Right. So getting them to the major cities, taking them on trips, getting them out of their norms. You know, I mean, it's gonna be kind of hard because that's what they're used to. You have generational of people who have never left the Eastern Shore. Right. So, like, that's all they know. So you have someone you're trying to tell them to, you know, go get a job, go do this and that. But if you haven't seen that, right, then that's your norm, and that, like, you're not gonna convince me otherwise. Right. That, you know, I haven't seen a 2-parent household. I haven't seen someone go to college. I haven't seen mom and dad get up and go to work and come home. Like, you know, those are the things that we see all the time. So it's trying to change the mindset. It's just very, very hard and very difficult.
So we talked a little bit about this earlier, but how the village looks really different today in 2025 compared to what it looked in 95. And so how do you think, and what do you think, either or, needs to happen to get more Mr. Bruce's out here in the community, and how do you think we can start?
We have to adapt. You know, like we have like this. We have to understand that we have a way that we feel like is right, but the kids that are, you know, being raised now, we have to adapt to them just as much as they got to adapt to us. Because like just because we feel like our way of living is right, doesn't mean that they're gonna be acceptance to that.
Right.
You know, like they have way more social media and technology than we had. We had no choice but to go outside and play and
Right.
find something
Yeah,
to do.
absolutely.
Now you actually have an option to stay in the house
Right.
and play on a video game and have all that. So, you know, we have to we have to be adaptable to understanding like the demographic is different for what they see.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just say that we got to be able to find a way to meet them halfway,
Right.
and then just be genuine. You know, one thing I feel like you got to be genuine. You got to meet these kids where they're at and understand like their background. So we meet them for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, and we're trying to change 14 years of trauma and ways they've been living. It's not realistic to be able to do that. So we got to meet them where they're at, and I just feel like we just have to like show them real genuine love and compassion.
How do you feel that we can get local minority businesses involved? So our local barbershop, our local hair salon, or even, you know, an auto body shop. How do you think that we can change mentorship down on the Lower Shore through partnering with these smaller minority-owned businesses?
We got to open up the doors. We got to give them the opportunities to. Not everyone, like realistic. Not everyone's going to college. We got to throw that out the way. That was one of the things growing up. You know, for me, I knew in the 6th grade I didn't want to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, as you go through high school, everyone was pushing college, and here you are. You have all these trades and other entrepreneur things that kids can do. So we have to kind of throw out that old mindset of thinking, and understand that the plumber and electrician is making just as much as the doctor nowadays. Like people are making money doing these trades that wasn't really privy to us. Like my dad was a mason, and
Right.
you know, that's one thing that I always stick to. If I would have stuck with that and not pushed school as much, maybe I would be in a different situation. Maybe I wouldn't be sitting here. Not in this capacity, you know what I mean? Like maybe I would have
making
other
more
business.
money,
Yeah,
you
definitely
ain't
probably
it?
that.
For
But
sure.
you know what I mean? Everybody, we all got our own way, but just like the mindset and thinking of that college was the only way then. And here I am in a household with a man who's a mason who, you know, it was hard and all that. That was maybe that's the reason why I didn't do it, because I see how it broke him down. But just being entrepreneur mindset now, like these kids now are going to find a way to get money one way or another. No matter how you look at it, they're going to find a way to get money. But we have to also meet them and say, okay, maybe school isn't for you, but here's a trade. You know, let me teach you real estate. Let me teach you to be a salesman.
Right.
You know, all of those things that can help provide for themselves and not push like the college all the time. And college is great too,
Right.
but just get them the options.
Absolutely. So who have you had in your life as an adult as a mentor?
I would say the most impactful memory I have is my father. You know, I think that like growing up, watching him, you know, be a man with him having trauma of his own growing up, you know, and those things wasn't talked about. Like I didn't know nothing about traumatized in my 20s, but looking back at it, you know, he did the best he could for what he had. You know, his parents died when he was 14 and 16, so he had to become a man at 16 years old. Got married at 19, and then life hits you, and you have to maneuver all this, like without sitting down with therapy, without all he knew was get up and going to work. That's it. You know, he worked through all his pain and everything, and like a lot of the things that he kind of instilled in me as a young boy, I didn't understand. I used to always think, man, my dad might be a little crazy. He telling me all this stuff, and then when you hit 25 and 30 and life start hitting you, those words come back like, oh man, yeah, Pops told me this about 15. He told me this when I was 8, but I didn't understand it. But now I'm an adult and I got my own family. I see, like, you know, that it's hard. You know, it's hard. So, and he always told me, you know, don't do no complaining. Somebody out here got a worse situation than you. And now I put that on to my kids. Like, you know, we gonna find a way. You know, and he used to always say that. And I used to go to him and ask him questions. He'd be like, well, figure it out. And I used to hate it as a kid. And now I find myself always telling my kids, like, well, figure it out. You know, you got to figure life out. So
Absolutely.
yeah.
So you're basically the program manager for Returning Citizens. And what is the one thing that the community needs to know about mentorship when it comes to returning citizens?
I think we gotta. I think we just gotta start from scratch. Like a lot of the conversations that I'm having with these older gentlemen and women, I feel like they miss out on a lot. So it's like one of the returning citizens told me is like, I spent time in a jail cell before I went to the zoo. You know what I
That's
mean?
powerful.
Like that's real powerful. And like he said it in like a joking way, but like his was like
No,
literally
that
like
hit
I
him.
literally spent time in a jail cell for X amount of time, and while I'm in a jail cell, my kids are visiting DC Zoo and Baltimore Zoo and the Wax Museum. He was like, when I come home, like they have so much information to tell me, and the only thing I could tell them about was incarceration. And he was like, that took so much away from me. The fact that I spent my early 20s following a trend that landed me in a jail cell, and I can't even say that I've been to a real zoo. You know what I mean? So like,
So
and you think this
impactful.
man is in his late 30s, almost 40, and he was like really pushing the fact that here I am 40 years old and never actually done the things that my kids have done at 6 and 7 because I was chasing the streets or I was tied up in this gimmick of fake hope. So that's one thing I feel like we just gotta normalize. I always say normalize being a square. Like now the squares is winning now. Like
I
the
love
streets
that.
is so
Yeah.
I hate to say dead, but like that street life is only gonna get you so far.
Right.
And a lot of people that's doing the work now are the ones that have done it the wrong way and like all this time I'm chasing this, and if I would have been a square from the beginning and it's been normal, been fine, then a lot of this pain I wouldn't have. So I would
Yeah.
say normalize being a square.
Oh, I love that. Normalize being a square. So how are you using your voice now to make a difference in your village?
I'm just being me. Like I think that's really like my story isn't fake. I'm not gonna portray something that I'm not and all that. But like my genuine heart and my genuine willingness to meet anybody where they're at and walk them through it. Like I feel like that's my voice. Because I don't have to put on like a persona. I don't have to say, oh, I did this and that. Like I'm working with people that grew up with me and they knew me, so I don't have to say, oh, I've done all these elaborate things. You know what I mean? I'm genuine. I'm here to help whoever I can, and I want to be able to. It's not about me. You know what I mean? If I can help you get in a different situation through the position I'm in right now, then that's what I'm gonna do.
Thank you, Thomas, for spending time here with me today. I'm definitely walking away with like embracing the square because there's so much value to it and the authenticity of being a square and the authenticity of being a leader in another way amongst your peers when you're a square. And then being able to teach others. So your peers are always watching you. Like, no, I don't care where you're at. You can go to the bodega every Tuesday at 3 o'clock. Somebody's watching you, and they know that you go to that bodega every single week at 3 o'clock on Tuesdays. But they're watching you. And I think that, especially in a community like the Shore, I always say, y'all are slow and country down there when I go down there. Sometimes I need a little slow and country. But everybody is one thing that I learned is watching down there. And so I hope that people continue to watch you because you are a role model. You are an example for what people can do. And I hope that every participant that comes through and has the opportunity to sit down with you and meet you and know that you are non-judgmental. You're a man of few words. But when you do speak, you speak volumes. And so, I hope that you can continue to carry that. I hope people continue to value. And your reputation supersedes that. And your reputation is one of, he's that dude. And so, I just thank you for actually embracing us and being a part of, my team. And, I just continue to grow and learn from you. So I thank you for that.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for everything that you've done for me as I grow and as I learn in this leadership position. Like when I first came in, there was a lot of things that I felt like I was missing, and you gave me the opportunity to be authentic, but also grow in a space that's not just helping me, but helping my family and helping my community. So, you know, thank you for allowing that space to be different. And you used to always tell me, hey, try it. If it don't work, we'll try something different. You know, and that's just something different that I've never heard when it comes to working for someone. There's always a cookie cuttery way to do it. And, you know, your authentic was like, hey, if you feel like it's going to work, let's try it. If it don't work, we'll go back to the drawing board and try something different. But I feel like that's the reason why Lead for Life's name is so big on the Eastern Shore, because we are genuinely boots on the ground in the street, helping
Yes,
people hand in
yes.
hand. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
I ain't doing no complaining. I done came a long way back when cuz them was banging. I ain't doing no complaining. Even dodged the Fed case back when what's the name was saying. Got money talking like it's Chris Tucker, ballin' like I'm in the rucker. Every morning that I wake up, here go another sucker. Call me anything.
Voices of the village, we rise, we sing. Every heart together, let the love take wing. Voices of the village where dreams begin.